It's a tough one.
I would argue that, our economy really is not that strong. We're average, right? Are we as strong as the U.S.? Are we as strong as Germany? Are we as strong as North Korea or South Korea?
Sure.
I don't know. But there are a number of statistics that really scare me, and I think the one that really, two, you can say, okay, $1.64 of debt for every dollar of earned income.
Yeah.
So, we're really overextended in that regard. But the other one that scares me more, and you probably see this as well, half of all wage earners live paycheck to paycheck. Half.
Staggering number.
So that means that, okay, yep, I got paid today. I'm going to just make it to the next payday. So if something happens, interest rates go up or whatever, then, right, you're falling off the fence, and they're going to be in trouble at that point in time. So, I think, it's tough. Tough situation.
There's a lot to it, isn't there? We touched briefly earlier on some of these credit card interest rates and the fact that credit is so readily available. I can attest to the fact that, I'll go to the bank and talk to a teller, and I've spoken to, usually just use a bank machine. Right? Online banking seems to take care of all my needs. Well, I went and saw a teller not too long ago, and they said, well, you're pre-approved for X amount of dollars line of credit. Well, I've already got a line of credit. They're so easy to give you more. They're motivated to do so. It's a business, I get it. Credit cards, the same thing. You'll get a credit card, in the mail, sign up for the credit card, 20% interest rate, whatnot. Has it come to the point where it's now predatory lending policies? Is it predatory, or is it that's just good business? You're just trying to make a buck. You're the bank, you're a credit card company. It's fair game. Is there ethics involved? I think there is.
When I started out in banking, many, many, many years ago, it was a situation where if you wanted a credit card, you would go talk to the branch manager, and the branch manager would say, yeah, I think you should do this and this and this, and then we'll give you a credit card. Contrast that to today, where, again, you walk in, you talk to somebody, again, they are getting compensated on what they sell. And so immediately it's one of, here's credit. So the world has definitely changed, and I think one of the biggest factors in that change was the entry of the American banking conglomerates into Canada. Because they really were aggressive in giving credit, and the Canadian banks had to respond because, again, they have a duty to their shareholders to try to generate profits, and generate profits by giving out debt, credit. So that's
is the definition right, though? Is that predatory lending? You think, Carolyn?
Well,
it's a nasty connotation.
It's a nasty connotation, and there are certainly kinds of credit in our community that I would definitely consider to be predatory. These are the ones with rates that are hidden because there's a combination of fixed fees up front and interest rates or buy now, pay later schemes where it's very difficult for the consumer to even tell what the cost of the purchase will be. That is really tough for me to be okay with. I think people should have a very clear sense of, if I'm going to make the personal decision to borrow, because borrowing is a personal decision, I need the information in a way I can understand it. And when it starts to get foggy and convoluted, I really struggle with that. Our general literacy is low enough when it comes to understanding the money. I don't think it's fair for it to be confusing.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. We're going to jump to another quick break, folks. Check in with the Rant Pack. Stay with us.
I think debt in this generation, and personally my generation being 35 years old, is okay, maybe not as out of control as some of the younger generations. I do think it does need to be taught in school, but it's up to the person who's requiring these products, requiring a mortgage, requiring a credit card to go out and get them. The banks can be predatory, but I believe it's up to the consumer to really read and do the research the best they can on these products that the banks are offering.
So my problem when it comes to, I guess, debt and debt management is the fact that as a student, in school, it's not something you learn about. And even in comm class, I think it's career and life management. You learn how to make the money, make the portfolio, build your resume, become part of all of that, but you don't learn how to manage the money. You don't learn what to do with it. So I feel as though when we come out as students, we are all fresh meat. Come 18, we are prime suspects, or prime targets, I should say, for the banks.
Justine, a young woman, clearly you touched on what we talked about earlier. Clearly we're not, it's happening. I think people are definitely not obtaining the education financially they need. Back to our conversation before the break, though. Do we need to see some sort of government intervention, maybe some laws introduced to curb some of this, quote unquote, predatory lending, or some of these, potentially unethical, business practices from banks and other lenders?
Yeah, and I agree with you totally. And I think we've seen some of that now. It has to continue, obviously. So I mentioned previously the issue of the disclosure on the credit card statement as to how long it would take to pay it off.
Yeah.
Okay, so so that was a good one. The other one that the government recently introduced was that credit card company can no longer automatically increase your limit without your authorization.
Yes.
Okay, so that was a good step. So, I mean, they are trying to take some steps on this, and just again going back to your comment, is it predatory or whatever? Again, financial literacy is the key, right? It's buyer beware. If you know and can make sense of what you are getting into, then again, you're going to make wiser choices. If you have those goals, and then you might think about, okay, well, yeah, no, I don't need this credit because I'm saving, So, I mean, it all ties together in terms of awareness and therefore making proper decisions.
It's about discipline.
Yeah, I mean, I want to go back to the regulation question because I'm not with you 100% that tighter regulation is going to solve this problem. And part of that is because we've seen in other jurisdictions that really tight crackdowns on the predatory, the evil lending can make that go underground, because there are people who live on really low incomes that they're not going to make their rent, and they have to make really tough decisions about what is going to happen next. And when I spoke to a woman not too long ago about if she hadn't had access to a payday lender, for example, which is a pretty high cost lender, what would she have done? And she said, well, I probably would have committed a crime to feed my family. Wow. So I'm not necessarily convinced that having that kind of lending environment go below our radar is necessarily the best for the people we're trying to protect through this.
Yeah, that's tough.
Having said that, I don't want to see anybody go and borrow at the rates that we see advertised.
That is tough, though. And it's great that she's so honest. The person you're speaking to is so honest. Are you finding,
black and white.
When you're talking, yeah, exactly, it's not black and white.
Yeah.
When you're speaking with people that come in for counseling, are you finding that their habits, maybe obviously some of the very bad habits, are being passed down from their parents and maybe generations before them within the family?
I think when people make really tough decisions, chances are they're not stupid.
No.
They're being faced with really difficult trade-offs, difficult decisions that have to be made. And I generally do think maybe it's being a passed down habit, but it also may be a history of poverty that is passed down that is cyclical, and that is definitely a community responsibility for us to look at.
You'd probably agree then, Brad.
Yeah, one of the things we see, again, people can come in for a free financial assessment at any of our offices, or even over the phone or via Skype. And so we see thousands of people a year that just want to understand, where are they at and what can they do better. Don't have to be in financial crisis. So again, we see pretty well across the board.
Gamut, yeah.
And the one interesting part of it is that as a counselor, you hear all of the stories. So, and most people, you don't set out at the beginning of the year to say, I really want to get myself into some financial trouble this year. I'm just going to go for it, right? It's job loss or injuries or relationship breakup or, and of course, again, as one of the Rat Pack members said, hey, I came out of school and, so how many times do you hear young and stupid? So the reasons for people getting into financial situations and financial distress are right across the board.
Endless. Yeah.
Endless, right? There's no consistent behavior that we've found.
Well, that's good to know. It's strategize. If anybody's going to take anything from the program tonight, strategize, plan, and have some discipline, it sounds like. Folks, that's all the time we have for tonight. As always, an informative discussion. Of course, you can keep the conversation going on Facebook as well as Twitter. And if you have a show topic you'd like us to discuss on the show, by all means, drop us a line. Thanks and take care. Great job, guys. Have fun?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Have fun. Flew by. Always flies by, doesn't it?